President and himself shared on the support to county governments. And Honorable Speaker, I expected that we would maintain the 400 billion that we initially agreed on to be given to the counties, and to me, that would have been an outright support to devolution and outright support to county governments. By accepting to reduce to 387 or less, Honorable Speaker, I do not think this is the commitment that the head of state was making with the CS Treasury on the support of county governments. However, Honorable Speaker, I empathize and I feel with the reasons that the committee gave as they were moving this and as the seconded this mediated report. But also to say from the onset, Honorable Speaker, that negotiations may not be a preserve of PhD holders, as was stated by Senator Sifuna when he was seconding this, Honorable Speaker. Negotiations are just deliberations which lead to a give and take, but I still feel, Honorable Speaker, that it would not be fair to the county governments that we go by the report and the figures that have been given here. Honorable Speaker, the counties as they are have no other avenue of developing their areas other than the on-source revenue that they get and the equitable share as is given, Honorable Speaker. We know that the PPs have not been working for the county governments. The national governments have policies that puts them in a good state for the national government to negotiate with development partners, which most of the county governments do not benefit from. County governments from the onset have tried so much to engage development partners through their investment conferences, Honorable Speaker, but because of the policies that we have, they have not achieved much. Honorable Speaker, we all know that even functions as they were being unbundled to the county governments, these functions were never costed. Arbitrary figures have been put on these functions. For example, if you take health, Honorable Speaker, the function of health is so expansive, and yet it was devolved to the counties without a scientific costing that was done to the services that are offered in health. And so the counties continue to suffer with the amounts that they have. And Honorable Speaker, it is also common sense that where you have a bigger brother like the national government, as we have in the dispensation that we are in, that we have two levels of government, and it was well stated that it is the duty of national government to capacity build the county governments to come to the par on the expectations of the public. I felt, and I continue to feel, Honorable Speaker, that the shortfall that we have should have been borne by the national government, and we should have maintained our original figure of 400 billion, Honorable Speaker.
On the senators, can you maintain?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for saving me and for ensuring that the Senator of Nandi is seated and quiet, listening to my presentation. Anyway, Honorable Speaker, as I said, I feel, Honorable Speaker, that we should have maintained the 400 billion. I do not see a reason why this shortfall should not have been borne by the national government. Because, Honorable Speaker, if we have to go by less figures, what then happens to the priority projects that the counties are supposed to undertake? And some of them were quantified. The county aggregations that require 50-50 matching with the national government that was placed at 11 billion, Honorable Speaker. We have the enhanced contribution by NSSF that has 3 billion. We have the community health promoters, Honorable Speaker, that is so key to the achievement of universal health care. That also has a 50-50 matching with the national government. On our side being 3.2 billion. We have in health too, we have the Doctors Collective Bargaining Agreement, which comes to around 5.8 billion. Honorable Speaker, you know that the functions that were given to the county governments are core to the heart of our people. Not limited to health, but we have water, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in my county, now there are rains. We have water. Despite the fact that we can see the lake just by us, our people are not able to have access to water, especially during drought. In my county, Honorable Speaker, and even in my sub-county, which is Ndewa, our people suffer. So much for lack of access to water. The issue of water is a problem. Even though certain investments have been made on the drilling of boreholes and the provision of the water points, but reticulation to the people remains a challenge in my county, and I believe in other counties, Honorable Speaker. If you go to our municipalities, you often hear that there's no water in my headquarters and in other headquarters, and this is a function that the county governments are supposed to do. The municipalities, Honorable Speaker, have old infrastructure that was laid years ago, and this infrastructure breaks down often. The counties are not able then to work towards the universal expected standards of having our people access water. Honorable Speaker, another key sector that was devolved to counties is agriculture. Honorable Speaker, in agriculture we have fisheries for some of us coming from the lake, which is very important to us, and we have agriculture itself, the farming part of it. Honorable Speaker, our farmers do not even access extension officers. Our farmers are not able to access these officers when they need it, Honorable Speaker, from these departments. And Honorable Speaker, I believe this is because of the inadequate funding that is given to this sector. Honorable Speaker, I expect a situation where if a farm be able to access, our farmers still keep cattle, our farmers still keep dairy cattle, and they often require services from the veterinary department. But without adequate funding, Honorable Speaker, our people turn to pets. Honorable Speaker, in my country still and in other countries, we are looking to achieving a percentage of tree coverage. In my country, there were 2 outstanding forests, one called Kodera Forest, another called Ruma that is next to my village. Honorable Speaker, the deforestation that has taken place in this forest is so massive, and I was looking forward to some adequate funding so that my county government would embark on a forestation program to bring my country to the expected tree cover national. Honorable Speaker, I am not very comfortable with the reduced figures, and I feel as a Senate, we should have maintained our figures. And so, Honorable Speaker, as I step aside, I want it to be categorical that I do not support this, this version of the mediated report. The Senate must continuously stand with the county governments. The Senate must continuously stand with the figures that were given initially in the report here. And Honorable Speaker, it is also worth noticing that as this report is moved, we do not have now the aggression that the committee have when they initially present their report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute this. I'll be short, I'll be very brief, Mr. Speaker, because at 11:30 I'll be taking the oath of office as a commissioner. I'm quite amused about that. I'm quite happy. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sat in the mediation committee, and indeed, we as the senators were quite firm that the amount that we had suggested of 400 plus would remain untouched. We pushed, Mr. Speaker, we listened to our counterparts, and I want to agree with colleague Senator Beatrice that indeed we had insisted we need and we must be the 400. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, at times it takes a bit of courage to be able to give in, and especially aware of the situation that the country is in. We realized that there are no people who are served by the national or the county government, and we did realize that the situation and the physical space that the country is moving around, then in the spirit of give and take, we said, Mr. Speaker, we must, to ensure that the counties do not come to a halt, we must come to an agreement. Mr. Speaker, sir, in every mediation, it is the spirit of give and take that governs people. The emotional intelligence that's required for us to be able to come to a conclusion, because looking at the fact that we will be shortly moving for recess, and the county government will also be doing the same, we asked ourselves very hard questions. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we said, yes, promoting devolution, upholding devolution, ensure figure, Mr. Speaker, sir, with heavy heart that we agreed to the relatively reduced figure of 387.4. Mr. Speaker, sir, having said that, it is also very, very important that we also tell our colleagues, the governors, that yes, austerity measures as being practiced by the national government. The fact that the national government had reduced its budget by over 380-something billions. And I like what Senator Sifuna said, that we needed to see the breakdown of these figures. But as we look down at those figures, as we interrogate those figures, Mr. Speaker, let our counties not come to a halt. And I remember the majority leader has just said he received several calls. I did also receive such a calls from my governor telling us, yes, our county is in dire need and something must be done. Mr. Speaker, sir, we made that decision to bridge the gap so that we do not cripple the activities of the county government. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, as we sat with the members of the National Assembly, as we try to push and harden on our position, that we as the promoters and protectors of devolution, that we are not going to take any cut. it was not lost to us that even we here in the Senate, our committees, the other drivers of the Senate business have also had to face a budget cut because that is the reality and the situation as it is. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I urge my colleagues to support the mediated fashion, I would want to tell the mayors it is with heavy hearts that we in the mediation committee did accept this position, but we know moving forward, Mr. Speaker, and we agreed, we need to unbundle all the functions and make sure that we inject the budget that goes with it. It is in this spirit, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the spirit of give and take, in the spirit of knowing that we are one nation, serving one people, that we must be prepared at times to take compromising positions where we accommodate our people, because service delivery to any part of Kenya, to any Kenyan, regardless of their being served by the national or the county government, is success for Kenyans. And this, Mr. Speaker, sir, is what informed our accepting this fashion. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I sit down, I want to urge my forward services and deliver that they require. Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, I agree with my colleague that the county government do not have the frameworks that the national government do enjoy of having to, or entering into PPPs. But this, Mr. Speaker, sir, we must also have a paradigm shift in the way we look at things. Some of our counties, Mr. Speaker, especially in the agricultural sector, in water reticulation, the unit is small that it cannot achieve economies of scale, and therefore municipal county government, so that they can be able to realize some of the mega projects that have been conceptualized. Mr. Speaker, as I say this, I remember the mega dams that were promised in Nyeri County. For the last 60 years, we've been waiting. But the kind of budgetary allocation that they require, the county government will never, in its resources, be able to realize that. And that opens the door for us to negotiate with the national government, with the neighboring counties, so that as we enter into we can be able to achieve economies of scale by making sure that we have numbers that are enough. Mr. Speaker, my colleague also alluded to the fact that water reticulation is a major non-resource water. That is water that is lost through pipe bustage or water that's siphoned out. We lose, at some counties, lose up to 70%. Services closer to the people. This can only be done through collaboration of the national government and the county governments and formation of regional blocks, so that economies of scale and the numbers can be able to attract investors who can come and invest in these counties. As I sit down, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the mediation committee, both the senators and the members of the National Assembly, for their being selfless in their spirit of giving and taking to ensure that we come up with this mediated fashion, which I urge my colleagues to adopt moving forward. Is we know that source revenue in the county government, and ensuring that we seal the leakages, we seal the loopholes, and most importantly, improve governance and accountability and transparency, so that the services are delivered promptly to our people. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Senator Karungu Thangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So that from the onset, I can say that I don't agree with this report. Because, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, this House approved 400 billion to go to the counties. I don't know whether I'm audible, Mr. Speaker, or maybe I can move closer to you.
We can, Thangwa, it's okay, but you are very audible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and the opportunity to say that I do not support this mediation report, because, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, this House approved 400 billion to go to the counties, but the National Assembly, which is never mandated to take care of the interest of the counties, reduced that amount by 20 billion. Mr. Speaker, the committee sat, the mediation committee, and they all agreed on 387 billion. That is cutting short 13 billion to the counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to give my reasons, borrowing heavily from the presidential State of the Nation speech at the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the President said on paragraph 18, Mr. Speaker, if I can read for you, the President said tax revenues have grown by 11.5% in the year to June 2024, reflecting the success of our tax-based expansion measures. The economy continues to grow steadily, recording a 5.6% growth rate in 2023, among the highest globally. We project 5% growth this year and 5.6% in 2025. Mr. Speaker, if the tax revenues have grown by 11.5%, why cut the amount of money that is supposed to go to the counties by 13 billion, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, if you read the report by this good committee, the Mediation Committee Consideration of the Division of Revenue, they said that the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024 was an unprecedented event and has implications on government finances. This occasioned a shortfall in projected revenue collection of 346 billion. Mr. Speaker, the President is saying one thing, that there is tax revenue growth by 11.5%. Yet the Mediation Committee is saying there was a shortfall, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sometimes when you're accused of telling lies, it gives us, a hard time knowing who to believe and what to accept, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this shortfall the committee is implying happened has been negated by the President himself. So my question is, why do we reduce the amount that goes to the counties, Mr. Speaker? And very well, Mr. Speaker, Article 96 of the Constitution is for us to take care of the interest of our counties, both the government and the people. So, Mr. Speaker, I do not understand why the Mediation Committee or why the senators whom we sent to that committee could agree to any reduction. Actually, we could have asked for more, Mr. Speaker. Because why, Mr. Speaker? Paragraph 29 of the President's speech, Mr. Speaker. It says, counties have struggled with shortages of medicine, equipment and staff, hindering service delivery and leaving countless Kenyans with suboptimal access to health care. The President himself, Mr. Speaker, is aware that the counties are struggling from his speech in Parliament. Yet the committee, either they are not in line with what the President is trying to achieve or they're coming up with their own figures, Mr. Speaker. The President goes on by saying, Mr. Speaker, on that paragraph 29, it would have been easy for me to step back and leave this responsibility to counties alone. But that would have been a disservice to Kenyans and a betrayal of our constitution. Mr. Speaker, the president is aware that there is shortage and he cannot sit back and leave the responsibility to the counties alone. Mr. Speaker, then why would a committee of this House reduce the budget or the money that goes to the counties, yet it has been made aware that there is struggles, there are shortages, there is all that by the president himself in the counties, Mr. Speaker. So that's why I would not at any moment, support this.
Senator Mundingi, what's your point of order?
Fahamisha rafiki wangu Senator wa Kiambu, Mr. Karungu Adhangwa, mambo ya kutanja rais wa Kenya, shinda ya mediation haikuwa na rais wa Kenya, mediation ilikuwa na maseneta wale tulichagua hapa, na wale mediation wengine walikuwa pale ni watu wa mbunge ambaye wataki kusikia kaunti zetu njia ukatusi wakipata era inafaa. Kwa hivyo ningetaka kukosoa rafiki wangu Karungu Adhangwa, hakuna pahali rais alihusisha kwa sababu amepeana demokrasia. Mwende mkae chini ndio devolution iweze kupata kazi, iweze kupata hela ile inafaa bilioni 400. Kwa hivyo ningependa kumwambia angekosoa ile kamati yetu na parliament ambaye haitaki devolution iendelee kazi. Asante bwana Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, maybe it is my English that the senator is not understanding what I'm trying to say, but I can simplify for him to understand. What I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that the president is aware and he knows the counties are struggling. The president wants to help the counties. But the committee that has been mandated, Mr. Speaker, I wish you would protect me. I wish you would protect me, Mr.
Bwana
Speaker.
Mazayo, nini hoja yako ya nidhamu?
Bwana Spika, pengine ndugu yangu aliye hivi sasa anatoa maoni yake kwenye ile ripoti yetu ya Mediation Committee, amesema ya kwamba pengine ni kizungu chake, kimombo chake ni kwamba pengine yule ndugu yetu hakielewi. Nataka kumuuliza, je, ni haki kusema kitendo in a form of innuendo, jambo ambalo innuendo ni kwamba pengine hulisemi kiwazi. Nataka kujua, je, akisema hivyo Mundigi mwenyewe hujiita daktari hapa, yeye akiwa kama daktari anajua kimombo sana, na hata nishamsikia mimi akiongea kimombo. Je, ni haki kwa ndugu yangu ambaye hivi sasa chairman wangu wa barabara anaweza kusema ya kwamba Mundigi ana upungufu wa kujua kizungu ama kimombo? Asante Bwana Speaker.
Senator Thangwa, unaweza kurekebisha matamshi yako. Ulikuwa unamaanisha Senator Mundingi hafahamu lugha ya kizungu.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't mean to say that he does not understand English. Maybe I was speaking too fast for him to comprehend. And that's why I decided to slow down and explain to him or to the House that the President is aware that the counties are struggling, Mr. Speaker. And because they are struggling, you would expect a House that is mandated to come up with this law, the DORA Act, Mr. Speaker, the committee that understands that we need to have service delivery at the counties, instead of reducing these amounts, we should actually increase this amount, Mr. Speaker. I was also trying to say that the President has acknowledged that the tax base has increased by 11.5%. So there is more money within the national government. So then why reduce the monies that goes to the counties? That is my question, and that's why I was trying to compare the two, what the President believes and what this House believes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know these monies, when they get to the counties, there's a lot of embezzlement, there's a lot of corruption, and as we send monies to the counties, we should also call upon the governors to use these resources the way it's supposed to be used, Mr. Speaker, to fight corruption and to stop thievery or eating county money, Mr. Speaker. And the other day I saw the governor says that they are going to shut down counties if we do not agree. And you know, Mr. Speaker, you do not threaten a person who is out there trying to assist the counties to get what they're supposed to get. So when you say, if you do not agree very fast, we are going to shut down counties, are you trying to tell us? And I think that's why these members of this committee agreed to reduce to the reduction of the 13 billion, Mr. Speaker, because now the county governors, they are threatening they are going to shut down, and probably this committee decided, okay, instead of you shutting down, let me give you less money, Mr. Speaker. I would want the governors, with the same gusto that they are going to, the threats are going to shut down the counties, Mr. Speaker, they should come out and say how they are using and misusing the county resources, Mr. Speaker. Because monies have been sent to the counties, and when they have been sent to the counties, Mr. Speaker, you realize that the health workers are not paid. For example, the county of Kiambu, my great county, Mr. Speaker, the health workers have not been paid their salaries for the last 4 months, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Kiambu employees are not attending the Kikoska Games this year, something they have done every year. And you know that's the only opportunity you meet other people from other counties for cohesion and agreement and understanding of each other, Mr. Speaker. And they are not going to attend because, one, they say there is no money. But if you ask them, the money that you have had, how did you use that money? Didn't you budget for this? And it was budgeted for, Mr. Speaker. So you should not again blame the national government that there is late disbursement, yet you have your own source of revenue, Mr. Speaker. And this is a call to all governors, Mr. Speaker, that they should work on their own source of revenue. And working on own source of revenue does not mean increasing the taxes or the levies, Mr. Speaker. It is just broadening the collection of it. And this can only be done through digitization, Mr. Speaker. And I'm comparing the President's speech from my contribution, Mr. Speaker, because if you read paragraph 66 of the President, actually I'm supporting some of his pronouncement, Mr. Speaker. The President said that I am delighted to report on the dramatic improvements we have recorded by automating and digitizing our revenue collection and service delivery through e-citizen, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this should be trickled down to the county governments, and I'm calling on the governors to borrow from the President's speech and digitize their own source revenue collection methods, Mr. Speaker. They should digitize tax collection or levies collection, digitize service delivery, digitize water supplies, Mr. Speaker. And you know counties own water companies in their counties, Mr. Speaker. And since I'm in one of committees that scrutinize these reports, the audit reports about water companies, Mr. Speaker, we have realized counties are losing a lot of water through the non-revenue water, Mr. Speaker, through leakages, stealing of water, no meters, and all that, Mr. Speaker. And if you look at it, like yesterday, we had the governor of Kirinyaga, and his county is losing 56% of all the water supplied to the county government of, to the county of Kirinyaga, Mr. Speaker. 56%. And when you ask them, they say the pipes are old, we don't have meters, the people are stealing water. Mr. Speaker, if we digitize, even have smart meters, Mr. Speaker, this can really help the service delivery if we digitize, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know counties need money, and it is upon this House to scrutinize how the governors are using these monies, Mr. Speaker. The other day, and we saw it yesterday in the news, that the national government, through the Ministry of Water, they are forming a task force to fight rats menace, snail menace, and birds menace in Mwea, Mr. Speaker. Though it might sound funny, this is a huge problem in Mwea, Mr. Speaker. The people of Mwea are suffering because their rice is being eaten by the birds, called quelea birds, the snails, and of course the rats, Mr. Speaker. But when you ask them, and I've talked to the senator of Kirinyaga, and he has given me more information by telling me that one red-billed quelea bird can eat 80 grams of rice every day. If you multiply that by a year, Mr. Speaker, that's about 215 tons of rice. So the Mwea people, if you convert that to money, they lose 32 million Kenya shillings every year, Mr. Speaker. But when you ask the national government or the county government, they are forming a task force. You know, this government of ours, Mr. Speaker, they like meetings. They even form a meeting to discuss whether they should have a meeting, Mr. Speaker. What I'm trying to say is, Mr. Speaker, how to fight this menace in Mwea is to give counties more resources. But again, I've been told here by the Senator of Kirinyaga that the county government of Kirinyaga has never budgeted for this menace, has never put money to try to reduce these red-billed quelea birds that are eating the rice, Mr. Speaker. And when you do a little bit of research, how do you repel or keep away these birds, Mr. Speaker? Is by using some ultrasonic repellers, Mr. Speaker. It is a small gadget that makes some sound or emits some sound waves that the human cannot hear, but the birds will hear, and it will disturb them, and they will run away. And such a gadget, Mr. Speaker, is going for 3,000 Kenya shillings. And the county government cannot see it fit to budget for such a gadget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have known even from our high school, of our primary school times, that we have scarecrows, Mr. Speaker. And I know maybe these birds and these rats, they are used to the scarecrow. But in this time of technology, the county government should at least even give them drones, Mr. Speaker. The drones that are also emitting the predator's sounds so that the birds can feel like a predator is on the way, Mr. Speaker. So what I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that we shouldn't reduce the amount of money that goes to the counties, and again now ask the governors to prudently use those resources as per the budget estimates, as per the budgeting processes, and also as per the people's priorities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know I'm talking about Mwea, but probably this is not the only problem in Mwea or the rice fields, Mr. Speaker. Maybe in Bura, Ahero, North Kano, or even Lower Kuja in Migori, Mr. Speaker. Maybe they're also having these problems. And when the government says it's going to form a task force to catch a rat, Mr. Speaker, you ask yourself, don't we have the people who are mandated to deal with these issues instantly? Must you form a task force to go and discuss the rats, or the birds, or the snails, or even how to kill them, Mr. Speaker, yet they already know how? All I'm trying to say is that money should be used well to the intended purposes, and I oppose this report, Mr. Speaker. We need to give counties more money so that we can be able, as a Senate, use our channels and committees to check on how these monies are used at the counties, Mr. Speaker. So I oppose this report. Thank you.
Senator Stuart Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, cha kwanza nataka kutoa kongole kwa wale maseneta wetu, hususan katika bunge la Senate, kwa sababu haya yalikuwa ni majadiliano kulingana na vile ambavyo tulikuwa hatujaelewana na ugavi huu wa pesa zinazokwenda katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Bwana Spika, tunaona kwamba wale majabali wetu ambao walikuwa katika hii kamati, ukiniruhusu Bwana Spika, kwa heshima naweza kusema ya kwamba wakiongozwa na kiongozi Ali Roba, kufuatiwa na Edwin Sifuna na Recha Julius Burgor na Mohamed Fakii na Veronica Maina na Richard Onyonka na ndugu yangu wa Matinga commissioner, vile vile Profesa Ujambo Mungatana na Edi Kishero. Hii ripoti Bwana Spika, na hawa majabali ambao tuliwapeleka ili waweze kujadiliana kuona ya kwamba wamepitisha zile pesa, walifanya bidii walivyoweza. Kulingana na matokeo yale ya kwanza, ripoti yetu sisi tulikuwa tumesema tuweze kupeleka mashinani, serikali zetu za mashinani kupeleka bilioni 400 zote 47 waweze kugawanya, na tuone ya kwamba kila kaunti katika Kenya imefaidika na hizi pesa. Lakini kwa sababu ya sintofahamu tofauti katika bunge la kitaifa, wakaona ya kwamba hii pesa irudishwe chini. Lakini hawa majabali wetu ambao tulikuwa tumewachagua hapa waliweza kufanya bidii na hatimaye wakaweza kufikisha kiwango cha bilioni 387, ambapo si kiwango kibaya kulinganishana na vile tunavyoelewa ya kwamba 15% ya sheria inaruhusu. Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya kwamba kipengele cha katiba cha 96 kinasema ya kwamba kazi ya Senate itakuwa kulinda na kutetea hususan zile pesa ama kitita cha pesa kile kinapelekwa katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Hii ni kazi muhimu sana kwa hili bunge letu la Senate, kuona ya kwamba hakuna mwaka tutaweza kuketi bila kupeleka hizi pesa katika serikali zetu mashinani. Lakini tumeona ya kwamba japokuwa zimepungua, huo ndio wajibu ambao sasa tunataka akili za magavana ziweze kukaa chini na kujua hii pesa ambayo imepunguzwa tutaweza kuifanya namna gani ili iweze pia yale mapato tuliyopata kuweza kuendeleza maendeleo katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Bwana Spika, hakuna mtu ambaye anaweza kufaulu kutengeza maendeleo ikiwa hatapata pesa. Na ndio sababu tunasema ya kwamba kipengele cha 96 ni kipengele muhimu ndani ya hili bunge la Senate. Na mimi nataka kupatia kongole masenators wote kwa kuweza kufanya bidii kuona ya kwamba bilioni 387 zimeweza kupatikana, zimekwenda katika serikali zetu za mashinani ili kuweza kusaidia maendeleo. Kongole ndugu zangu maseneta katika hili bunge. Vile vile nikiwa ninaendelea kukubaliana na hii ripoti ambayo imetengenezwa kwa hali ya taaluma ya juu, Bwana Spika, tunataka kuona hizi pesa zikienda kwa magavana, wao wasijichukulie kama wao ndio tunasema namna gani? Tunasema wao wasijichukulie kama wao ni wakubwa. Wao ni watumishi wa wale waliowapigia kura. Kwa hiyo tunataka utumishi sasa uonekane ama ubainike wazi ya kwamba hizi pesa ambazo tumezipeleka katika serikali zetu za mashinani zinatumika kwa hali inayofaa. Tunajua kuna ufijaji wa pesa kwa njia tofauti, lakini tunawasihi ya kwamba hizi pesa zikitumika vyema, wale watu wetu wa mashinani, wananchi wa mashinani wataweza kufaidika na hizi pesa. Na huo ndio muhimu ya kwa sababu tunapeleka hizi pesa katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Bwana Spika, ni lazima tuone ya kwamba magavana na wale maspika wanaohusika kusambaza hizi pesa wameweza kuzitumia kwa njia ya nidhamu. Matumizi katika hospitali, tunasema hospitali ni kiwango cha kwanza, manake katika kaunti hakuna kaunti itakuwa na mwelekeo mwema ikiwa watu wake wengi watakuwa ni wagonjwa. Tunataka watu wa Kenya wanaoishi ndani ya Kenya afya zao ziwe sawa sawa, na jukumu hili sasa limepelekwa katika serikali za mashinani kuona ya kwamba wale watu wanaowaongoza katika serikali za mashinani wako na afya njema. Na ndio tunasema sababu kubwa ni kwamba ni lazima kitengo kikubwa sana cha hizi pesa zinazokwenda katika serikali zote mashinani ziende katika mahospitali, ili ziweze kuchukua madawa, ziweze kuchukua vifaa ambavyo vinaweza, kama mtu amepata ajali, kama mtu anataka kulazwa katika vile vyumba ambavyo zinaitwa intensive care, chumba cha mahututi ambacho mtu anaweza kupata madawa na hatimaye akatoka katika ile hali yake ya mahututi, akaja akawa mzima tena, akarudi kwa jamii yake akiwa na afya njema. Tunasema hiyo ndio sababu tunasisitiza sana kwamba pesa nyingi ziweze kupelekwa katika mahospitali, ili Wakenya wakiwa watakuwa na afya nzuri, nchi yetu itaweza kupata maendeleo zaidi. Bwana Spika, kuna pia vile vile tunasema hali za mawasiliano. Pesa hizi si za kutumia vile mtu anataka kutumia, lakini tuone hali za mawasiliano, barabara zile za mawasiliano, barabara zinazokwenda katika vijiji vyetu vya vitongoji. Tunasema ya kwamba hivyo pia hizi pesa ambazo tumezipeleka hivi sasa ziko katika mikono ya magavana, waweze kuzitumia katika kuona ya kwamba usafiri ama hali ya maisha kutoka point A to point B, wananchi wa Kenya wataweza kusafiri wakiwa na barabara njema. Vile vile Bwana Spika, uti wa mgongo katika nchi hii, Bwana Spika, ni ukulima. Tunajua kuna wakulima katika sehemu mbalimbali, wengine pengine katika sehemu za kaskazini ya Kenya ni watu ambao wana zaidi sana watumia hali ya mifugo. Tunasema kwamba katika yale maeneo ambao watu wanatoka tofauti tofauti, tuweze kupeana kipaumbele kwa huduma za wale watu wanaoishi kule. Kama sasa watu wa Northeastern, watu wanaoketi kule wanataka ng'ombe zao, wanataka ngamia zao, wanataka mahitaji fulani fulani, tunaona ya kwamba lazima gavana upande ule atie mkazo. Tukija upande wa wakulima, kuna sehemu tofauti tofauti za Kenya kuna wakulima. Tunataka pia magavana hizi pesa ambazo zitakwenda katika ziko katika serikali zetu mashinani waweze kuzingatia kuona ya kwamba wakulima wamepewa kipaumbele, ili waweze kuwa na mashamba yao ambao wataweka rutuba, wataweka fertilizer, wataweza kuweka mbegu, ili waweze kupata chakula kingi. Manake hakuna nchi ambayo inaweza kufaulu ndani ya Kenya, Bwana Spika, bila kuona ya kwamba chakula kinapatikana, ili watu waweze kushiba, kufanya kazi kwa bidii na kuwe na maendeleo. Tunaita food security. Bwana Spika, mara nyingi tumeona waliosimama, wanaopinga. Hatuwakatai, kupinga ni sawa, lakini sana ripoti hii imetengezwa na kamati. Hii ripoti ni ya kamati, si ripoti ya rais. Lakini watu tukiketi hapa kama maseneta, tukianza kusintofahamu ya kwamba tunaongea habari ya taarifa aliyotoa rais ya mwaka wa 24 katika hili bunge letu, tukiileta hapa tukifananisha na hii ripoti, haitakuwa sawa. Tutakuwa tumekosa mwelekeo. Kitu ni kwamba ripoti ya rais iko kando na ripoti hii ambayo imetengenezwa na kamati yetu ya majadiliano katika bunge zote mbili, wakakubaliana katika hizi pesa, ni kwamba tunaongea habari ya pesa zitakazokwenda katika serikali za mashinani ili ziweze kusaidia wananchi wa Kenya. Bwana Spika, nikiweza pia kumaliza, nataka kusema ya kwamba wafanyi kazi wanaofanya katika serikali zetu za mashinani, wale wafanyi kazi, wazungu walisema, na uniruhusu nitumie lugha ya Kimombo, ya kwamba your first client is your employee and a happy worker is a productive worker. Kitu cha kwanza ambacho magavana wanatakana kuona ni kwamba wale wafanyikazi ambao wamewaandika ndani ya maofisi, tunashangaa kwamba sasa kuna sababu ndogo ndogo ambazo tunaweza kuziona zikitoka katika kila mahali katika Kenya, ya kwamba wamekosa kupewa mishahara. Hizi pesa tunasema hakuna anayetaka kufanya kazi baada ya siku 30 asione mshahara wake ndani ya mfuko, ili aende nyumbani akifurahi kuweza kutoa fees za watoto wake, kuweza kulisha bibi yake, kuweza kumvalisha bibi yake na watoto, ili nyumba ile iwe na raha. Tunaona sumazi zinatandaa katika mafamilia tofauti tofauti, kwa sababu ukiulizwa unasema mimi sina pesa za kulipa mishahara. Lakini sasa hakutakuwa na sababu ya kwamba wafanyikazi wetu wanaofanya katika wanaofanya kazi katika serikali za mashinani watakosa mishahara yao. Nasema ya kwamba kipao cha mbele wafanyikazi wenu wanaofanya katika kaunti zote 47 katika Kenya, hivi sasa pesa ziko, walipeni mishahara yao. Bwana Spika, nataka kumalizia. Na kimaliza ya kwamba nasema hii ripoti yetu tuliyoandika, mimi nataka kukubaliana nayo, kwa sababu ni ripoti ambayo imepeana mwelekeo, na ni ripoti ambayo imeeleza sababu gani tuliweza kukubaliana kuchukua hizo bilioni 387, tukakubali zile zingine kama 13 zipotee. Lakini hali sintofahamu ya Kenya ya kwamba uchumi hali yake pengine si uzuri, lakini sisi tunasema tu ya kwamba tunawaombea hao magavana waweze kuketi katika yale maofisi, waweze kukaa chini, kutafakari, kuona ya kwamba maji yatasambazwa, barabara zitapatikana, mbegu zitapatikana kupeleka kwa wakulima, hospitalini kutapatikana madawa, na hatimaye pia mishahara ya wananchi ambao wanafanya kazi katika serikali zetu za mashinani watapata mishahara yao kulinganishana na uwezo na kulinganishana na nguvu, na zile maeneo wanaofanya kazi wasifanye kazi kujivunja vifua alafu mishahara isiweze kupatikana. Kwa hiyo tunasema katika hii ripoti tunasisitiza zaidi, na mimi naisupport kwa sababu ni ripoti ambayo imetengenezwa na maseneta wenzetu, wameileta hapa, na sisi tunaona kwamba ripoti hii itasaidia vilivyo katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we seem to have a problem with the system. The system has hanged. So I will require all of you to log out and then log in afresh. And don't worry about the... yes, it had already hanged, yeah. So please just log out and then log in so that we can reboot the system. I do have a list of the speakers. No, let's do it again. Can everybody log out and then wait for my instructions to log in? Log out. Sergeant at Arms, can you assist us to remove the cards which are in the system? Niko na majina ya watu vile kuongea. Very well, Senators, you can now log in again. Very well. Senator Mundingi Alexander.
Ruhusa niweze kuchangia mambo ya hela zile zinaenda katika kaunti zetu. Bwana Spika, naunga mkono kwa hii ripoti ambaye inaonyesha vile pesa itaenda katika mashinani. Ingawa hii pesa haitoshi, kwa sababu nakumbuka mwaka jana, Bwana Spika, kaunti zote 47 tulikuwa tumewapitishia bilioni 385, lakini mwaka huu kabla mambo ya budget kupita tukawapitishia bilioni 1000, lakini wakati ilirundi huku katika budget kuanguka, Bwana Spika, ikawa parliament walisema kaunti zote 47, Bwana Spika, watapatiwa bilioni 380, ikawa wamepunguza bilioni 5, ikawa maseneta wameona hiyo ifai, na ndio kulisemekana kutatengenezwa kamati, Bwana Spika, ya mediation, na ndio tulichagua maseneta ambaye wale, Bwana Spika, tuliona wanafaa, na wakaenda kukaa kikao na wale watu wa budget katika parliament yetu ya Kenya. Bwana Spika, ningesema hizi bilioni wakati walikaa kutoka kwa bilioni 380 wakawa sasa wamerudi kwa zile bilioni 385 na wakaanza safari hapo, na ndipo tunaona sasa ni kama waliongezea bilioni 2 ikawa bilioni 387. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono, ingawa hata hizi pesa haitoshi. Yangu ni kuomba magavana, hizi pesa zitakuja mashinani. Ile njia mzuri ni kuomba tu ile pesa wajaribu sana, pesa nyingi iweze kwenda mashinani, na katika agriculture ndio key ya serikali na ndio key ya mwananchi, kwa sababu agriculture ndio kila kitu katika Kenya yetu. Mambo ya agriculture ndio iweze kufanya vizuri. Ningeomba kila, Bwana Spika, kila ward ukute wameandika agricultural extension officer, ndio tuweze kuona kilimo itaendelea namna gani, kwa sababu mvua inanyesha, kuna problem ya agricultural officers hakuna, na pia mambo ya mnyoko, unakuta mchanga inapepwa na maji. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, ningeomba hizi hela ikienda mashinani, kitu ya kwanza ni magavana wanjaribu, kila county governor county yake aandike extension officers, na pia kitu kingine angejaribu ni mambo ya afya, ndio watu wetu waweze kuonjeka, kwa sababu shinda ile iko mashinani ni mambo ya agriculture na mambo ya afya. Mambo ingine ya tatu ili hizi pesa wangejaribu ni parapara, ingawa magavana wawezi kutengeneza zile parapara kubwa, lakini wangejaribu sana pesa zingine waweze kupeleka kwa parapara, ndio ile wakati wakulima watalima mazao zao iweze kwenda kuuzwa na njia ile inafaa. Bwana Spika, mambo ya agriculture inashinda sana, kwa sababu kama Embu County kilimo ni tunawekelea njia ile inafaa. Kama Embu County kilimo yetu ni mambo ya majani, kahawa, makandamia, masiwa na maembe, na pia muguka. Kwa hivyo ningependelea kaunti ya Embu iweze kupata pesa na ipeleke mashinani, ndio wananchi aweze kupata kilimo ile inafaa. Kitu kingine watengenezewe ile water pans, ndio iweze kujisaidia na ile pesa ya agriculture. Kitu kingine ningeomba upande wa agriculture, kwa sababu hizi pesa haisitoshi, kuna serikali kuu ambaye ni ya Kenya iweze ile mahitaji ya counties, kila county iweze kutengenezwa ndamu kubwa. Kama Embu tunajua wametuahidi watatengenezea ambaye Kamumu ambaye itasaidia Mbere North, na Dhambana ambaye itasaidia Mbere South na Manyata. Kwa hivyo ningeomba pia ile pesa zimebakia serikali kuu, serikali juu ya kuinua kilimo, watu wa Embu County waweze kutengenezwa zile ndamu, na kilimo ya Embu na economy itasaidika, na watu watapata kufanya kazi ile inafaa, na tutapata mazao ambaye ni mazuri, na pia economy ya Embu County njia ya usuru itaweza kuenda juu na serikali ya Kenya. Kenya. Pia kitu ingine Bwana Spika, ningeomba katika hizi pesa ama serikali kuu iweze kutusaidia wakati tunapata mazao. Saa ingine tumelima sana, iende ikawa hakuna mahali tutaweza kuuza mazao yetu, iweze kutusaidia njia hata kama ni za ng'ambo, tuweze kupata pahali tutauza mazao yetu. Kama ni mambo ya mirasi tukumuguka ni mmea ambaye inaendelea na njia ile inafaa. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono. Ambaye upande mwingine ningeomba ni serikali ya county ni mambo ya afya. Pesa nyingi iende kwa hospitali yetu ya counties. Aswa tunajua health promoters wanafanya kazi nzuri, na nakumbuka ile budget ambayo ilianguka tulikuwa tumeongezea pesa, lakini tulikuwa asikia karibu wawache kulipwa misara, na ni kitu ya aibu sana, kwa sababu Bwana Spika, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza wakati iliingia iliangalia wale watu kwa kipindi ya miaka yote hawakuwa pata pesa chochote, lakini sasa wakasema serikali kuu itatoa 5% na county 5%, na tukafurahia sana. Kwa hivyo ningeomba mangavana wafuatilie au watu, kwa sababu wako masinani, ati mtoto akisaliwa wameanza kuchukua ripoti zao, na wale wakina mama wazee wako manyumbani wameanza kuchukua ripoti zao, ndio kuweze kuonekana miaka ambayo itakuja kutakuwa na mipangilio ya magonjwa yote kwa kila binadamu. Kwa hivyo ninaunga mkono juu ya hela ya county. Pia hizi pesa ningesema pia upande ya hospitali haitoshi Bwana Spika. Ningeomba pia serikali kuu iweze kusaidia serikali za county, ile hospitali kubwa waweze kupeleka mandawa na waweze kutengeneza hospitali iwe level 4 na level 5, ndio pia hiyo magonjwa tunasikia kama ni ugonjwa wa kansa na ugonjwa zile zingine. Na pia kuna wale watu wanalipwa na pesa ya county, pia madaktari, kuna wengine wanalipwa na pesa ya national government. Ningeomba serikali ya national government pia iweze kupeleka pesa masinani, ile pesa zingine zimembakia. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, kitu kingine ingeweza kusaidia county zetu ni kila county kuna ile pesa ambayo imekuja kutoka nchi za ng'ambo ya kusaidia mambo ya kupanda upandaji wa miti juu ya climate change. Pia county government na national government waungane pamoja, ndio tuweze kupanda miti, ndio ndamu zile tutatengeneza iwache kukauka, ndio unakuta tunaendelea kupata mvua, ndio mazao yetu iweze kuendelea juu, ndio tuweze kutengeneza ekonomi yetu. Na tukiendelea hivyo Bwana Spika, nchi ya Kenya upande ya kilimo na upande wa afya na upande wa parapara tutaweza kuwa tunainua kilimo yetu. Bwana Spika, ile kitu ningekosoa ni kusema wale watu wanapinga hii mjadala, nataka niwafahamishe, sio kumaanisha ati kama mimi sijui mambo ya Kiingereza ama Kiswahili Bwana Spika. Ile kitu nataka kusema ninafahamu vizuri hii mjadala inaongea mambo ya era ya county, na hakuna mahali president ameingia kwa hii mambo ya era ya county ya national government. Ile kitu nasema nilikuwa na maanisha ni ati senator wetu ndio alikuwa na msemo na kukaa na kipindi ya MPs ndio aweze kupitisha. President anja kataa kupitisha hela zile tunapitisha, kwa sababu sisi tumepatiwa kazi na mwananchi tuweze kutetea devolution, na pia ikitoka hapa house iweze kwenda kwa parliament. Na parliament imekuwa na shida nyingi sana na magavana, kwa sababu unakuta wanapata hela nyingi kuliko zile tunapatia county. Unakuta constituency moja Bwana Spika inapata milioni 150 kwa parliament kwa MP moja. Pia hapo wamejiongezea pesa ya parapara wakajipatia milioni 60. Hapo hawa MP pia wakajipatia milioni 30 ya kutengeneza stima. Kwa hivyo sinda ya hizi pesa ya devolution sio makosa ya president, ni makosa ya MP. Kwa hivyo nataka kukosoa wale watu wanapinga hii mjadala, ni tukae chini, kwa sababu Biblia inasema watu wawili waweze kutembea bila kuelewanwa. Ni sisi tuelewanwe, na pia wakati ule mwingine tukae chini tuelewanwe na parliament, ndio tuweze kupatia watu mashinani era ya kutosha juu ya economy ya counties. Ya mwisho Bwana Spika, ile ningeomba counties na governors, tafadhali kuna ile hela ambaye kule katika mashinani, kwa sababu tumeona hizi hela haitoshi kwa sababu ya kitu inaitwa pending bill na wage bill ambaye iliwachwa na ile magavana walikuwako. Ningeomba ile hela mnaokota huko mashinani muweze kuongezea, ndio ukute mnapata ile pesa Bwana Spika, itasaidia kuongezea hii pesa tumempatia. Kwa sababu kama county ya Embu County Government ninginafurahia sana na ile governor ambaye ako huko sahi. Embu County ilikuwa imepangiwa kuokota milioni 900, lakini ule gavana alikuwako zamani alikuwa naokota milioni 350. Bwana Spika, saa hii ule gavana aliyoko saa hii, ile kitu inafanya ni muunga mkono, amefikisha milioni 750. Na hizo pesa ndio magavana wanakula huko kwa njia ya misosoro. Kwa hivyo naomba gavana wa Embu County, umefanya kazi nzuri, lakini haujafikisha ile pesa. Inafaa kutoka milioni 750 ufikishe angalau bilioni 1 iweze kuongezea ile pesa ambaye itatoka katika huku mambo ya Senate. Kwa hivyo ningeomba uweze kujifunza na kaunti zile zingine, kwa sababu tumesikia kaunti nyingi imeweza kutafuta njia ya kuta pesa ya usuru huko mashinani. Kwa hivyo nashukuru kaunti ya Embu County na wale wafanyikazi mnaokota ile pesa. Jameni, ile line zote zinaweza kuharibia sisi. Ningeomba kaunti ya Embu County muweze kufunga ndio tuweze kuona kama tutafika ile pahali inafaa. Bwana Spika, unakuta kaunti zimekuwa na shinda hapa na pale upande wa hospitali. Ningeomba serikali iweze kuangalia. Nikimalizia Bwana Spika, mambo ya treasury iko na shinda. Waziri ambaye wa fedha, ningeomba muweze kukumbaliana na counties vile kila mwezi, kama serikali ya Kenya Kwanza wakati iliingia, rais wetu alisema kila mwezi mpaka county iwe ikipata pesa. Bwana Spika, na saa hii juzi tumesikia kama ni miezi 2 miezi 3 county haijapata pesa. Kwa hiyo naomba waziri wa fedha na pia na wale watu wafanya kwa fedha muweze kupatia county zetu kila mwezi pesa ndio tuweze devolution iweze kuwa masinani na tuweze kuona vile serikali ya Kenya Kwanza inafanya, kwa sababu inasema ni pesa mkononi. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi nikiwa senator wa Embu County naunga mkono, na mimi ni Daktari Alexander Munyi Mundigi. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Samson Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity to make a few comments on the report of mediated version of the Senate and the National Assembly. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I need to say that I'm disappointed by the outcome of the process. It looks like, Mr. Speaker, we did succumb to the whims and wishes of the National Assembly on this discussion. Mr. Speaker, while East counties continue to struggle with challenges of corruption, underdevelopment, poor performance, it is not justifiable to deny them resources. Mr. Speaker, when we propose 400 billion, his colleagues went us bashing us in funerals and baby showers and bridal showers. Mr. Speaker, to preside over where counties have not received adequate resourcing. The reasoning we proposed 400 billion was not out of nowhere, Mr. Speaker. 400 billion was enough for counties. The fact that we are cutting it to 387 billion, Mr. Speaker, is quite unfortunate. Many people would want to say additional of 3 billion or 7 billion because in the last session it was 385 billion. Mr. Speaker, I feel disappointed that the only way we can remove the hit on the development of this country from national government is to resource counties to be able to do their functions as per the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. So this 387 billion, Mr. Speaker, is not sufficient to counties. But I want to appeal, Mr. Speaker, even on this issue of equalization fund of 8 billion, we are yet to release as per Article 204. The money has yet to be released, Mr. Speaker. You have heard we have been push and pull here, Mr. Speaker. Even on the issue of concurrent functions like disaster, Mr. Speaker, I expected the national government to shun the responsibility of community health promoters, CHVs, fully, because it's not expensive. Anyway, health is devolved. I expected county national government to shoulder the issue of industrial parks, where 250 million by county and 250 million by national government, because these are concurrent functions. Mr. Speaker, the biggest danger to devolution is clawback of its function, number one. Number two is the unbundling of functions that should follow costs, Mr. Speaker. There are many functions that are still being retained by national government, yet it should be unbundled to the counties, including function follow money. Mr. Speaker, for example, health is supposed, the function of health is fully devolved. The only role the national government comes is on policy. Mr. Speaker. And you remember the medical equipment supplies in the last session, Mr. Speaker, we were fighting very hard, Mr. Speaker, over the issue of medical equipment supplies. It became one of the biggest rip-off to counties, Mr. Speaker, up to date. So I think, Mr. Speaker, even as we say the issue of road maintenance levy fund, Mr. Speaker, I still insist that that money belongs to county governments. 11 billion Kenya shillings. And I want to ask members of National Assembly, why are they being greedy? They are getting close to 40 billion, Mr. Speaker, through CDF, which under the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker, it has been ruled that CDF is unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. And I want to borrow the words of the AUC nominee, Mr. Speaker. When he read his statement, the party leader of Senator Richard Onyonga, when he said the role of Parliament, both National Assembly and the Senate, should be and must be oversight. It is high time that we scrap totally CDF, Mr. Speaker. There is no need. How can you preside, oversight the money that you are spending yourself? Why don't we take all money and give it to counties? Then all of us oversight. Let them oversight national agencies, we oversight counties. Even this RLMF, 11 billion, they want to add themselves over KERA. KERA and KURA is unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy people in court are arguing that KERA and KURA are unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. Because as we talk today, the members of National Assembly have all hostage KERA to do their own bidding, Mr. Speaker. So the issue of CDF, which every county is receiving, every constituency is receiving of 100 million, and the argument, Mr. Speaker, the misnomer I hear on the streets is very simple. You know, CDF is doing more. Oh, we have seen CDF. CDF was started in 2003. It is the high time we consolidate all the funds, do division of revenue to national government and to the counties, then oversight both, Mr. Speaker. And I agree in the principle of AUC candidate Raila Odinga when he says, let members of parliament do the oversight of the funds that they appropriate. The budget making process, and I had a member here saying that the president and I want to do pro bono legal advice on the floor of the House to all Kenyans. President and national executive are not involved in the budget making process. The budget making process is an exclusive domain of this National Assembly and the Senate. It was decided in the petition number 3 of 2013 by the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. So we should correct Ms. Norma that the national executive nor the president does not participate in any way in budget making process, Mr. Speaker, and therefore it should be handled. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, counties continue the issue of pending bills. Mr. Speaker, are you aware most of our businessmen in Garissa, in Nandi, in Kisii, have died following up for their pending payments by the counties, Mr. Speaker? As of June 2024, Mr. Speaker, counties owed pending bills of 158 billion. Including Garissa, your businessmen and women are suffering because they cannot be paid by counties. I saw the governor of, who is the chair of finance, the governor of Kakamega, telling us the biggest danger to devolution is control of budget. It is not. What governors are doing is voiding payments. They take money to pay Haji, but they pay Aaron. That's what they are doing. And the control of budget must be on lookout to ensure the proper approvals of the money. We will not allow governors to run away with corruption. I saw the chair of finance and I was worried. What is he talking about? The biggest problems in functionality of counties are governors themselves because they do voiding of payments and steal the money. Why do we have, Mr. Speaker, after resolution of this House through pending bills, we did say money should be paid all across the counties, 158 billion as of June 2024. No one has paid. Governors, the other day, there was a misnomer, and I was embarrassed, Mr. Speaker. They were saying they have not received money. When the CS of National Treasury released the report, they had received up to October 158 billion Kenya shillings. They are yet to relieve November, Mr. Speaker. And they are lying to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, led by the chair of Wajir, Ahmed Abdullahi, where Wajir is dysfunctional. As we talk today, and I look at the CBK accounts, Wajir County as county government has 2.6 billion lying. Kisii has 6.7 billion lying in CBK. Nandi has 2 billion lying in CBK. Yet the chairperson of COG is telling the country there is no money, yet they have their money in CBK accounts of 2.6 billion. Yet people of Wajir cannot arrest drugs, cannot access roads. Even in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, we have 2 billion. Yet the governor is basically lamenting and perambulating and talking in funerals and giving out handouts and buying djembe sticks and buying machetes, Mr. Speaker. As if we are giving them money to prepare for war, Mr. Speaker. It is very unfortunate, and I feel embarrassed, and I want to tell Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, some of us in Nandi no longer believe in functionality of security. Somebody was arrested when we went to occupy Nandi County Assembly on the ad hoc report, where Governor Sang cannot account for more than 10 billion Kenya shillings worth of projects. Someone senior within Nandi County Executive was arrested with machetes and djembes. The only thing that the police did in Nandi is to give him lavidavis. As we talk today, one young man was attacked by the name de Gitaro in Nandi Hills town. The person who attacked is a governor's goon. Is here to be arrested today. The DCIO and DC Amin and IG Douglas Kanja are doing about it, nothing about it. The goonism is Nandi is the order of the day. Anybody, I saw even in Dr. Ondari's funeral's father, goons have taken over funeral services in Kisii, Mr. Speaker. It is very unfortunate, and I saw Senator Onyonga and Madam Donya, Mr. Speaker. We are not appropriating monies to counties to run goonism. The way, Mr. And I am embarrassed. I am disappointed by Nandi County security team that up to today, Mr. Speaker, you can even check in media. They were goons allegedly sponsored by governor carrying djembe sticks and machetes on camera. The Nandi County security team led by county commander has never arrested anybody. What are you telling us? Why are we appropriating this money? If goons are walking around, Mr. Speaker, you can't ask questions. The moment in Nandi you try and question, I saw a young girl called Vero was being threatened. Another young man called Basi was being threatened. I've told you of a young man called De Gitaro. He was attacked by broad daylight in Nandi Hills town. And it is only 50 meters from Nandi Hills police station. No one has been arrested. Somebody who did that is known. Mr. Speaker, we must agree as a nation. You saw yesterday in Turkana County, Mr. Speaker, despite that Turkana County has received over 100 billion Kenya shillings. When it rained to Turkana yesterday, Turkana County Referral Hospital was flooded because of poor workmanship. Turkana has received over 100 billion. Yet the governor of Turkana, from the reliable intelligence I have, whenever he goes to funerals, he dishes out 1,000 shillings to the people of Turkana. You saw in Turkana, a Form 4 graduate, Mr. Speaker, it was reported in the news. A Form 4 graduate was dispensing medicine. What are you telling us? What is EACC doing? What is DCI doing? If a Form 4 graduate somewhere in Turkana is dispensing medicine, and we are sitting here as a Senate, as if nothing is happening, then there is a big problem with this country. The system is broken. The way governors, Mr. Speaker, including your governor, where it's only a few meters to the river and there is no water in Garissa town, Mr. Speaker, is receiving money, smiling, and all the way to the bank. They should come back and account it before the floor of the House. I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, when you ask governors to appear before committees of, they don't come. I issued summonses to the governor of Kisii, Simbarad. I have issued summonses against governor of Taraka, Mudhomi Njuki. We have issued summonses to Machakos governor and even governor of Isiolo, because they don't want to come to account, Mr. Speaker. But they are busy taking money from us, but they cannot come back to account, Mr. Speaker. I remember even when the Senate and in the County Assembly of Nandi, Mr. Speaker, when the ad hoc report of a 10 billion projects like Kapsabet, mother's baby, newborn unit, there is no mortuary in Kapsabet town, Mr. Speaker. The one that was there was built by Muzungu. Our people are suffering. You go to Nandils, there is no drugs. Across Kobuja Sub-County Hospital, Kobuja Sub-County Hospital is less than 50 meters from the governor's house. God forbid if he gets sick, he cannot access medical care in Kobuja Sub-County, Kobuja Hospital, which is tall. Kapsengere is tall, Mr. Speaker. Even all the projects are told that were allocated money. When the members of county assembly in Nandi tried to pass the ad hoc report, there was a lot of intimidation and blackmail against the MCAs. And I want to thank the MCAs, almost 19 of them, led by the chair of ad hoc committee, Kapsabet Ward member of county assembly, for standing firm and fighting for justice, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because I can see my time is fast spent, corruption in counties must be fought. As we talk, Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge the nominee of EACC, Mr. Abdi, to walk the talk. We are tired of EACC frying only omena instead of frying mbuta, Mr. Speaker. As we talk today, Mr. Speaker, as we talk today, Nandi County, there was a payroll fraud. The EACC and DCI came to Nandi, took away computers. Up to today, no one has been arrested. Even our Public Service Commission report came out in Nandi and showed, Mr. Speaker, that a number of people hired by governor were earning salary without working. No one has been arrested up to today. One of them was his campaign soloist. Another was a media presenter. Some of them were close relatives, Mr. Speaker. Up to today, EACC and DCI have arrested them. So what are you telling us, Mr. Speaker? The system is broken. It is as simple as that. You saw what happened in Kisii, the same thing with employees, fiasco. No one has been held accountable in the issue of employment saga, even in Isiolo. Mr. Speaker, even we want to challenge the new EACC CEO. We are tired of appropriating funds. Net Yowan is held accountable. Up to today, on the issue of payroll fiasco in Nandi, none has been arrested up to today, Mr. Speaker. We must be told. I want to challenge the new CEO nominee, Mr. Abdi, to walk the talk as EACC. Let us stop. You know, they come with abracadabra, come with vehicles, take computers, take copies. 1 month, no one has been arrested. 2 months, no one has been arrested. Yes, and they see each other through the tent, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Today, Senator Onyonga is one of my biggest cheer squad here on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud of it. Mr. Speaker, that is very unfortunate that we give money to EACC and DCI from taxpayers to fight corruption, but there is nothing to smile on about. As a reggae song says, when you look outside the window, do you see anything to smile about? Our counties are becoming bastions of inefficiency, moribancy, corruption, Mr. Speaker, as we talk today. Even finally on Host Resource, Mr. Speaker, Nairobi, under CRA, have potential of 67 billion, but they are collecting 12 billion. Where is 50 billion? Nandi has revenue potential of 700 million. They are collecting 200 million. Where is it, Mr. Speaker? And I see governors celebrating, but they are not telling the country in their own source revenue. Today, give value. Governors will take about equitable shareable revenue being appropriated, but they'll never tell you about their own source revenue. Where border stickers in Chepterit, in Aldai, in Chemase, Mr. Speaker, are paying for border stick. In Mosoriot, in Kaptumo, in Kobucha, in Chepterwa, in Maraba, Mr. Speaker, in Nandils, my women, Mamamboga, even in Kapsabet town, they have a dysfunctional town market where there is no sanitary, including toilets. Those women sit from morning to evening. There is no toilets, Mr. Speaker, to use, but they are paying money to counties. Those border, it's raining in Nandi now. The roads are impassable. Border have been forced to construct shades of grass, Mr. Speaker, to protect themselves from the sun or the rain. Yet that own source revenue, governors will not tell you about. If you ask the COG chair, which is an exclusive Ahmed Abdullahi, they will never tell you about own source revenue. They will tell you about money in treasury. They will never tell you what they are doing under CRA revenue potential, Mr. Speaker. So I want to challenge, Mr. Speaker, that on own source revenue, we must agree that the own source revenue should give value for our people going into the future, Mr. Speaker. We must ensure, and I am happy that as a Senate, we must have a conversation. I want to challenge, just 30 seconds, Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge that we need to work towards it. Mr. Speaker, I oppose this report. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Veronica Ndwati.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the indulgence to allow me to share my views. First of all, Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate the mediation team that sat to consider the request and the proposal for the revision of the Division of Revenue Act 2024, which was initially assented to on 10th June 2024, but due to factors that led to the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, it necessitated an amendment that was then introduced, and the two houses, Mr. Speaker, were not in agreement on the figures, and that called for the kicking in of the articles that enable a mediation to take place between the two houses. Let me first say, Mr. Speaker, that the trend that was set by this mediation committee was to the effect that the business being conducted both by National Assembly and then the Senate, Mr. Speaker, that both houses can come to a consensus, which then helps us to move important matters which have national consequence to a conclusion that then becomes a win-win situation for the citizens of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, one of the issues that the Senate felt very strongly, and because I was one of the members of the mediation team, was that reducing the county allocation to 380 billion would then have meant that it has been reduced less than what was given to the counties in the financial year 2023 to 2024, Mr. Speaker. And that then fostered a very robust conversation and a dialogue, almost close to a conflict between the two houses, Mr. Speaker, because Senate was of the view that we could not allow a reduction of that revenue below what was allocated last year, or the last financial year, Mr. Speaker. So I want to say that it was due to a very good process which was respected by both houses, that members were able to agree that at least the funds that we support devolution should be improved to 387 billion. We are not saying this is the best figure that could have been allocated to the counties, Honorable Speaker, because our vision was to ensure that counties could have up to 400 billion, Mr. Speaker, but it was not possible because of the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, which resulted to a shortfall in the projected revenue. And as a result, there was a shortfall of 346 billion, and counties were being pushed to take in a reduction of 20 billion, which we felt was too high because of the nature of services that are rendered by the county governments, Mr. Speaker. Let me from the onset state this. If counties were allocated 400 billion, or allocated 380 billion, or 390 billion, or 360 billion, Honorable Speaker, and yet we have so much wasted in the same counties, Mr. Speaker, even the 380 or the 400 will still not become useful to the Kenyans, to the citizens of this nation. That is why, Mr. Speaker, my first take on this mediated version of the bill, which I believe should now not face any opposition in both houses, is that, Honorable Speaker, it is time we face one another as citizens, as leaders, and agreed that it is time to curb wastage, to reduce on cost of how we do business, how we conduct business, and it is time we change the culture of our government offices, government officials, county offices, county officials, and let's say public service, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we were to reduce corruption even by 40%, it would unlock so much potential in this nation, Honorable Speaker. We would be finding world-class hospitals in all our counties, Honorable Speaker. So my first take is, even with the resources that have been allocated to the counties, we need to see much more service being rendered to Wananchi, and not just service, but, Honorable Speaker, very quality service. Mr. Speaker, we have seen a situation where the county governments on very many occasions, we look up to the national government for allocation of more resources, Honorable Speaker. But sometimes when you visit the counties or you listen to the reports that are coming to PEAK or PAC committees, Honorable Speaker, you wonder whether those counties are within the Republic of Kenya. You know, this House is known for supporting devolution and encouraging that more resources must be devolved to go to Wananchi, Honorable Speaker. But what has been happening is the wanton abuse and misuse of public resources now has to stop, Honorable Speaker. And there is also that question of own source revenue. Why aren't counties being able to concentrate on collecting revenue and improving service that people are even happy to pay for that service? Honorable Speaker, if you listen to many Kenyans, any provider who gives quality service is always assured of a clientele, Honorable Speaker. But the challenge we are having right now, unless we cap the wastage, even if 500 billion is allocated to the counties, it will still not be useful to Wananchi. Honorable Speaker, I support this report, and I would urge even the likes of Senator Cherargei, because this is a mediated version, and all factors were considered, that all our members should support this report so that we unlock these resources for the counties, because we cannot go to Christmas, we cannot go to recess, we cannot go on holiday before we pass this mediated bill, Honorable Speaker, and agree that resources must be devolved to the county and disbursed to the counties. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Esther Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also wish to support this report. When I actually look at the composition of the members who sat to mediate over this issue, from our side of the Senate, I see very good brains, even on the other side of the National Assembly, like one Dr. John Chikati, who was my former boss in my previous workplace. Mr. Speaker, it's interesting that mediation offers chance for us to sit ground on some of the issues maybe we would have not otherwise considered. And I've had an opportunity to serve at least in 3 mediation committees, and I know the intrigue that go in there. Glad we have now this version so that we can actually have our counties in full operation. I would not really want to dwell much on the issue of figures. Yes, it's our allocation and, of this shareable revenue is one of the Senate's core mandates, but I want to go into issues of once money has gone down to counties, then what do counties have to do with that money, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, when I was actually looking at some of the observations and recommendations of this report, I saw a suggestion that counties need to have a bigger look at their own sources of revenue. Mr. Speaker, their own sources of revenue currently are way low what is expected. For instance, if I give you an example, if you go to a place like Kajiado, a case in Point Rongai, if you meet county officials, they'll charge you for a service and put that money in their pocket. You do not see any kind of accountability in that case. That is money lost. Mr. Speaker, the 47 county governments need to prioritize, especially giving training to their officials who are on the revenue collection sector. The Commission for Revenue Allocation has given guidelines on how they need to go about that. This is a very progressive way of curbing losses, especially in revenue collection. Training also needs to happen on the management, on policy makers who are in that sector, Mr. Speaker, because we need to generally engage all sectors so that we are not facing hostility when we are encouraging collection of more revenue, that is in form of taxes. When you actually encourage all stakeholders in that particular county, you are less likely to face resistance. I saw my colleague Senator Cherargei very angry at the county chiefs and the corruption going in there. I need him to be more angrier and call out corruption in all quarters, not just county government. Because, Mr. Speaker, yes, when you actually look at the way spending is done at county government, then you really conclude the kind of spending that happens is not meant to help normal citizens, but more of the political class. Because when you actually go and see some of the payments that are being done, you see there is budgeting for maybe a leadership training that was undertaken in Dubai, people going to study about poverty alleviation in another country. Do you need to go to another country to study how they are alleviating poverty? We have our own case in Kenya. Those are situations that surround us on a daily basis, Mr. Speaker. And when you even look at most of the indexes we are looking at, especially in subdividing this money, one which is most critical, the health index. Mr. Speaker, most of these county governments are less prioritizing this sector. But as a parliament, we have passed so many laws that need to support the health sector to work very well. The other time we passed a facility improvement fund legislation. There was also legislation that was enabling even the surrounding persons to enable they have a committee of their own in their local dispensary that provides oversight, Mr. Speaker. So citizens also need to know they are equal partakers of what is currently happening, Mr. Speaker. In as much as we are calling out the political class, the citizens also need to know the political class we have right now are a representation of who they are. Because if citizens want change, Mr. Speaker, we need to start by carefully looking at the kind of leaders we elect, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I was very excited, because I believe an informed citizenry is a citizenry that is able to make right decisions for themselves and for what they want in terms of leadership, Mr. Speaker. The other issue I actually want to major on is agriculture, Mr. Speaker. Now that we have the rains, there are several initiatives that have been given by government, especially when we come to the subsidized fertilizer that has been given. These are opportunities we need to take advantage of, especially from the farmers. I know the Kenya National Seeds Company has been doing piloting in certain counties, and there are counties which have made a milestone and gone ahead to have collaboration with the Kenya Seed Company to promote their farmers. I would love to encourage more other county chiefs to borrow this and implement in their own counties. It's one way of making citizens self-reliant, because Kenyans have the energy to go to their farms and till land, make money for themselves, and also contribute to the national economy, Mr. Speaker. The other issue is the general population. You go to certain counties where, let's say, the poverty rate is around 49%, Mr. Speaker. But when you look at their priorities towards addressing that poverty rate, you actually get saddened and say then you are actually thinking of the wrong things, Mr. Speaker. So this is something we as members of the political class and citizens need to seriously think about. Why are we glorifying corruption? It's not just for the county chiefs. The moment you receive a handout from someone who's already taken a bigger portion from you, you are actually glorifying whatever they are doing. In civilized states, I see corrupt people even being executed. But in Kenya and in our counties, we glorify those people seriously. And any attempt to speak negatively about such actions would make you very unpopular. So I would want Kenyans, specifically young people, the future is not something you're anticipating to come any other time soon. The future is now. Young people who comprise majority of the numbers in this country, the women who are most affected when tragedy strikes, the children who will struggle daily to secure their future. These are some of the special interest groups we need to look at when we actually want to perpetuate actions that are always pushing them to the corner, Mr. Speaker. So in as much as there is clamor for more money to counties, I wish counties would spend money better. It's not just about getting more money, but spending this money better. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I mentioned of we have already current laws that have been, that Parliament has passed. Why don't we make use of such laws? We shouldn't make laws to just exist on paper. We should enforce these laws so that any other time we are legislating, people can see change happening, so that not every other parliament that comes here, we keep lamenting about the same issue. And at least this time round, the National Assembly didn't want to twist and show the normal rivalry that happens between the National Assembly and Senate. That shows that we are at a time where people and leaders want to put their heads together so that we solve the challenges we are facing as a country together, Mr. Speaker. So with those remarks, I wish to support my colleagues who sat and actually crafted this, and I wish that this passes so that counties can get resources to continue with their activities, but I want to warn the county chiefs against wasting such money, because when you waste such money, you're putting the lives of so many other people at risk. So many people who are not accessing affordable health care. And so many years after we actually passed the 2010 Constitution, so that we have this devolved government to have services closer to the people, we didn't want to have corruption affecting people more at that local level, Mr. Speaker. So I want to support this report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to support this mediated version of the Division of Revenue Bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's not lost to all of us as senators or even members of National Assembly that the reason why we are in this particular situation, because we had already earlier passed Dora and Kara, Honorable Speaker, but because of what happened on 25th and 26th of June, Honorable Speaker, the finance bill had to be shelved, had to be withdrawn, and it has occasioned basically a reduction of over 300 billion generally in the budget, and it has caused now the reduction of the shareable revenue to the counties to 387.425 billion, Honorable Speaker, from 400 billion, which all of us as senators had passed, and we had agreed that the reason why we wanted to give more to the counties was because of several reasons. One of the reasons, Honorable Speaker, is because of the housing levy. Basically, the counties were contributing the counterpart portion of the 1.5% of the housing levy from its employees, Honorable Speaker. And then another portion that the counties were contributing is to NSSF, because NSSF is a pension basically fund, and what the employee is contributing, the employer is also expected to contribute. That is what occasioned also the reduction of the amount the counties were using on the development budget, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is good to give credit to our colleagues, especially the senators who were in that committee, because if you saw the team from National Assembly, especially the co-chair of that team, Honorable Speaker, he was very adamant that 38 billion was going to be enough to go to the counties, and that would have been very sad, Honorable Speaker, because last financial year 2023-24, what was sent to the counties was 385 billion, 425 million, Honorable Speaker, and it would have occasioned basically a reduction from what they got last year. So the difference of 2.5 billion from last year's, I believe it will basically enable the governors to sort out the expenses on the housing levy NSSF contributions, and also their counterpart, the 2,500,000 that they'll contribute to pay the community health promoters as their portion, because I believe the national government will continue to contribute the other half of the stipend to our community health promoters, because this particular community health promoters, Honorable Speaker, are the ones who are helping the counties and both the national government, basically, especially in rolling out now the famous Taiva Care, Honorable Speaker, so that our people can get basically services in medical field under the Social Health Authority and Social Health Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's not easy. We know we are facing challenges. And the president was very clear when he spoke on Thursday, when he was addressing the nation, when he was giving the State of the Nation address, Honorable Speaker, that when Kenya Kwanza government came into power, there were a lot of challenges. And he also gave us a warning then that at the beginning, we will go through a lot of challenges, but in due course, Honorable Speaker, things will change for the better. That is why, Honorable Speaker, we have been told that as of September last year, the inflation rate, Honorable Speaker, was 9.6%. And as of October this year, it has dropped from 9.6 last year, September, to 2.7%. Honorable Speaker, I know Kenyans are asking, why are we not feeling this drop on inflation? There are many factors, Honorable Speaker. We thank God that the rains have continued for long. Our people across the country, they have food, and the rains are also continuing to grow, to rain, Honorable Speaker. And our people, we continue to tell them to plow, grow, so that at least the basic needs, food, is put on the table, Honorable Speaker. I believe this is one of the key reasons why inflation has dropped, Honorable Speaker, from that 9.6 to 2.7, and this they said it's the highest drop in 17 years, which is good news, and I believe by next year we are going to feel the effects of this drop in inflation rate, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker,